don't want to talk about it either, folks, but we have to. One of the most heartbreaking losses I have ever witnessed by the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. Plus, is Marcus Freeman a better recruiter than he is a coach? And what now are Notre Dame's college football playoff chances? All this and more on this episode of Blue and Gold, till I'm dead and cold. Well, I really thought we had it won. This one's going to take me a while. That was about as brutal of a way to lose a football game as possible. We'll get into all the different reasons why I think it happened. Most of all, I feel bad for the kids. This would have been the biggest win in 30 years for Notre Dame. It's Ohio State. Nobody's more talented than Ohio State year in and year out. Their recruiting is undeniable. They have lived at the top of elite blue blood status now for many years, going all the way back to, obviously, Urban Meyer and even Jim Tressel. Ohio State has been standard. They're full of NFL players. That whole roster is just stocked full. Both Egbuka, Harrison, Jackson, and Jones on the offensive line. Cade Stover was excellent in that football game. He is a real NFL tight end. Travion Henderson, Kyle McCord. I was extremely impressed with Kyle McCord. And that's not even mentioning the guys they have on defense, which was a very formidable defense that gave us problems. Low scoring game, 17-14. But until the last 3 seconds of the game, Notre Dame had only given up 10 points to those guys. That is what really got me. And it got me good because there was no talent gap in that game. I didn't walk away from this game thinking the best team won. No. Notre Dame played extremely well in that game. They weren't out-physicaled. Notre Dame had the same horses on their side of the ball that Ohio State had on theirs. Egbuka killed us, just like I said he was going to. In a previous episode, I mentioned we can't just lock down Harrison. Harrison only had 32 yards. That's incredible. Benjamin Morrison, one of the best cornerbacks in all of college football, did his job, along with other players in that secondary. But they picked on Thomas Harper, and every time Harper ended up on Egbuka, it didn't end well. Egbuka ended with just under 100 yards. And, of course, that crushing catch on the goal line at 3rd and 19. 3rd and 19 is going to ring in my ears for a while. The dropped INTs were tough. DJ Brown dropped an INT in the end zone to end the first half. And then he dropped that one on the last drive that went right through his hands. He's a really good player, and I'm not going to put this game on him. But those hurt. The missed field goal. Schrader missed a 47-yarder. Blew 2 fourth-down conversions. We blew 2 of them. One of them was just Sam Hartman didn't have the ball in the right hand. Had he have put the football in the other arm, that was a first down. We lost by 1 second. And that is very, very, very difficult. If you remember the old Rocky movie, Apollo's talking to Rocky at the end of Rocky 3 when they had their friendly rematch. And he said, when you beat me by 1 second. And 1 second is a very difficult thing to handle for a guy of my intelligence. 1 second against Ohio State. And any one of those previous mishaps that I just mentioned would have taken that 1 second off the clock and Notre Dame wins that football game. But now I'm going to talk to you about what I believe really cost us the game. And it wasn't the kids on the field. It was a combination of Marcus Freeman, Gerard Parker, and Al Golden, who I have great respect for all three. especially Marcus Freeman. When you get the ball back after your defense just had an amazing fourth down stop, and you've got about 4 minutes left in the game, and Audric Estime, possibly the best power back in college football, is standing on the sidelines, you're already wrong. You're already wrong. We are passing the ball. And then we try and get cute and end up going back to 2nd and 15. Well, now we have to pass it more. And then we do a run on 3rd down. They only had 2 timeouts left. We had been pounding them in the second half with our running game. Audric Estime was averaging 5 yards a carry. Jeremiah Love, 7.1. Jarian Price, 7.3. I loved it when they went into that 3-back set that they did behind Hartman. And he basically could hand it off to any one of the 3, and the other 2 just acted as fullbacks. Ohio State couldn't stop it. Couldn't stop. I've talked to several Ohio State fans since that game. And they all said the same thing. When Notre Dame got the ball back with 4 minutes left, I thought it was over. Because we can't stop what they were doing with that running game. And then we went away from it. We got cute. We made some bad coaching decisions on the offensive side of the ball, which gave Ohio State the ball back. With over a minute to play and 2 timeouts. Well, Marcus Freeman and Al Golden don't get out of this unscathed either. Because there was 15 seconds left on the clock. Ohio State was just forced to take their last timeout because of an intentional grounding call, which would have otherwise taken the clock down to 5 seconds. Had we have used our running game more efficiently previously, they wouldn't have had that last timeout to use, and it would have gone down to 5 seconds. But I digress. Back to the defensive coaching. Notre Dame, although they did not get anywhere near the amount of pressure on Kyle McCord that I would have liked them to get, the offensive line for Ohio State performed very well, I thought. But when it's 3rd and 19, and whoever you throw it to either A, has to get out of bounds, or B, has to get it past first down marker, otherwise the clock doesn't stop, unless, of course, it's an incomplete pass, you have them in a very rough situation. Why not do what you've been doing all game? Rush 4, blitz him, make him pass it fast so people can't get down the field. But we rushed 3, and we dropped 8 into coverage against Marvin Harrison and Emeka Egbuka, 2 of the best, if not the best, wide receivers in college football. Of course they're going to find the soft spot in the zone. And once again, Egbuka did it. And he got just past the first down marker, which did what? It put them on the goal line, and it also gave them a first down, and it also stopped the clock while they reset. Now they had a ton of options. Then the 10-man fiasco. I don't know if I don't buy what Marcus Freeman said, or if I just think he's wrong about not wanting to do what it's going to take now to get 11 guys on the field. Well, we didn't want to get an offsides. Why? They're already at the 1-yard line. Who cares if it's another half yard? After the missed pass, there's only 3 seconds left on the clock. Run a guy on the field. Let him get half a yard closer. I don't understand the play calling by all the coaches the last 4 minutes of this game. And when you're the adults in the room and your kids have played their asses off for almost 60 minutes, and that's how the last 4 minutes of the game is called in your own home stadium, it's unacceptable. Now, I'm not calling for anybody's job because, quite frankly, I think they normally do a really good job. But now they have to do a tougher job. They have to remind these kids that the season isn't over, that they're 4-1. that they only dropped 2 spots in the rankings from 9th to 11th, that all of their goals are still in front of them. And although, yes, they are going to need some help, they still have a 35% chance of making the college football playoff. And it's not as far-fetched as some people might think. There's 4 undefeated teams in the Pac-10 ahead of them and 3 undefeated teams in the Big Ten ahead of them. Notre Dame has the best loss in college football. Literally a last-second touchdown by the now number 4 ranked Ohio State Buckeyes. They are ahead of many 1-loss and 0-loss teams. We will get into the implications here in a little bit. But I just wanted to say, although I'm still a big fan of Marcus Freeman and his staff, I do believe Marcus Freeman and his staff are the main culprits for not winning this football game. All right. Next thing I want to talk about is Marcus Freeman. Because the reason there was no talent gap on Saturday night is because Marcus Freeman has done an incredible job of recruiting. He needs to brush up on his coaching because he's a newer head coach. I mean, he wasn't the defensive coordinator very long for us before he got that job. There's going to be other big moments for Marcus Freeman and his coaching staff. They, much like their players, need to rise to the occasion. They can't make these types of play calls with 4 minutes left in the game, just like our players can't run out of bounds with the ball in the wrong hand or drop 2 interceptions or miss a field goal that you're more than capable of making. Both the players and the coaches have to do their part. But let's talk about those players. This year, Notre Dame has the 13th ranked recruiting class. Next year already, for 2024, they've already moved up to 8th. 2025, you ask? 3rd. The talent pool is getting deeper, and it's getting deeper faster. Marcus Freeman, along with guys like Chancey Stuckey, are some of the best recruiters in all of college football. Our freshman class this year, Charles Jagusa, haven't seen him yet. A huge offensive tackle is going to be a good one. Jeremiah Love, we've obviously seen him. Braylon James, wide receiver, haven't seen him yet, but he's there. Boubacar Traore, defensive lineman. Kenny Minchie, 3rd on our depth chart right now. Let me talk about quarterbacks for a second. The Alabama Crimson Tide would kill to have our quarterback room, even after Sam Hartman leaves. After Sam Hartman leaves, you're going to have Steve Angeli, Kenny Minchie, CJ Carr starting next year, and now Deuce Knight the year after that. If those kids get any kind of coaching, that is a loaded quarterback room in a quarterback-driven league. Tight end Cooper Flanagan. Cornerback Christian Gray. Linebacker Drake Bowen. Safety Ben Minnick. Cornerback Micah Bell. Defensive lineman Devin Houston. Linebacker Jaden Ausberry. Center Joel Otting. Wide receivers Jaden Greathouse and Rico Flores. Guys, those are all high 4-stars. And a lot of them at skill positions where Notre Dame didn't used to get guys. Let's look what they've done already for 2024. Obviously, CJ Carr is the star of this class. He has a 96 rating, 24/7 Sports. One of the top quarterbacks. I believe he's the 4th ranked quarterback in the 2024 class. Cam Williams, 10th rated wide receiver in the 2024 class. Viliamu Asa, KVA, linebacker out of California, 9th rated linebacker in the 2024 class. Gerby Lambert, offensive tackle, 8th rated offensive tackle in the 2024 class. Guys, when you're recruiting people that are in the single digits on where they rank of all the high schoolers coming out, you're going to have a loaded roster. Edge rusher Logan Thomas, 10th ranked edge rusher, 2024 class. What do we have for 2025 so far? I'll tell you what we have. Another edge rusher, CJ May, 18th ranked for 2025, edge rusher. Deuce Knight, quarterback, 10th ranked quarterback. It is a team that is no longer going to be at a distinct talent loss against teams like Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, because Notre Dame's getting the athletes now. We got to coach them up, but they're not going to be at a talent disadvantage any longer. The recruiting of Marcus Freeman cannot be understated. Marcus Freeman is an incredible, incredible man. He is a great recruiter, and I think he's a pretty good coach. We just need to give it time. And that's not saying I'm giving up on this year. Let's get into this year. So right now, Notre Dame is the 11th ranked team in the AP poll. Ahead of Notre Dame, you have the Washington Huskies at 7th. You have USC at 8th, the Oregon Ducks at 9, and the Utah Utes at 10. We play USC in a few weeks. I think we can and will win that game. I think we can win every game that's on our schedule the rest of the way. We could have and should have won the game on Saturday night. There's not a talent gap. Now, we got the Heisman Trophy winner coming into South Bend with Lincoln Riley and a loaded offense, but that defense is not good. It's got good players on it. They just aren't putting it together. And USC isn't going to see a defense like Notre Dame's until they come to South Bend. So we'll have to see how that goes. But if Notre Dame can take care of business and hopefully take care of business handily against USC, I think USC, now I know some people may say Washington, but I think USC is better than and is going to beat Oregon and Utah. The Washington game is going to be a war, but let's just say USC wins all three of those games. There is a version of this story where Notre Dame passes up all those teams, because even though they would all have one loss just like Notre Dame, are any of them going to have as good of a loss as Notre Dame? I don't think so. It's really tough to get a better loss than to the number 4 ranked team in the country by 1 second, where a lot of people feel Notre Dame outplayed them and it was bad play calling in the last 4 minutes that cost them that. I'm not the only one who feels that way. Watch a college football show. A lot of them are saying that. Ohio State escaped. They didn't win. Notre Dame lost. Okay, so who else do we have? Well, now we kind of want Ohio State to run the table. And here's why. Because you have an undefeated Penn State and an undefeated Michigan to go along with an undefeated Ohio State. Ohio State coming up, they play Penn State at home in just a few weeks. And they also play at Michigan in the final game of the season. Not a big Michigan fan anyway, so go Buckeyes in that game. All of those teams that I just mentioned, USC, Oregon, Utah, Washington, Penn State, and Michigan, as long as Ohio State takes care of business at this point, all have a legitimate shot at falling behind Notre Dame if Notre Dame keeps winning. Notre Dame's the number 11 team in the country. There's every reason to believe with their schedule, because Notre Dame still has to play USC. They have to play on the road at Duke, who's now the 17th ranked team in the country. They've got to play Clemson. I know Clemson is not looking good right now, but they lost a heartbreaker to number 5 Florida State. Notre Dame still has to play teams like Louisville. I mean, they've got some real football teams left on their schedule. If Notre Dame runs the table and can make statements in a lot of those games, there is every reason to believe that Notre Dame could be up around that 4-5 area at the end of the year. Notre Dame is ahead of, who are some undefeated teams Notre Dame's ahead of? Notre Dame's ahead of Oklahoma. Oklahoma has to play Texas later this year. They got to play Oklahoma State. Texas right now is the number 3 ranked team in the country. Texas has to play Oklahoma. Although it's going to be at home, they got to play at Houston. They got to play at TCU. They got to play at Iowa State. They got to play Kansas State. Now, I really like Texas this year, but their schedule's not a cinch. And we all know college football can get crazy. And yes, even with one loss, Notre Dame's still ahead of Alabama because the powers that be are seeing the same thing I am. Notre Dame's just playing better than Alabama is. And the talent gap, as I said, is not there anymore. Does Notre Dame need some help? Absolutely they do. Absolutely they do. But there are at least 6, if not 7 teams on this list that Notre Dame could leapfrog just through the attrition of a college football season. Just through the attrition. Because a lot of these teams have to play each other and someone's got to lose. And if Notre Dame can make some statements, especially against USC, Duke, Clemson, they could crawl right back into this. I love our youth. I love Jaden Greathouse. I love Rico Flores. I love Jeremiah Love. Jaden Owsbury, Drake Bowen, Christian Gray. All of these guys are true freshmen and getting real time on the field. And guess what? The freshmen coming in next year, same thing. Go ahead and try to keep Cam Williams off the field. Tobias Merriweather, Rico Flores, Jaden Greathouse, Cam Williams. That's a receiving core, folks, and a good one. Have you seen our tight ends? Mitchell Evans played extremely well. Holden Stays has had some really nice moments. And we haven't even gotten Eli Raridan back on the field yet. Cooper Flanagan, the freshman. We got some good edge rushers, some good cornerbacks. We got a lot of people coming in. Our recruiting has definitely taken an uptick. And this year's not over. The coaches need to get our team focused and angry. There's nothing more dangerous than a pissed off, talented football team that feels like it just got backed into a corner. Go Irish. And we will see you